Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad to have you along. Come inside. Come inside. That's what she said.
Bum.
Welcome to your favorite politically incorrect sports commentary show.
It is Sports Frenzy 2.0.
That is the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, my best friend, my brother from another mother, the conquistador, Dave frickin' Height.
And that is the dulcet tones of our fearless leader through this crap fest that is the world of sports, the maestro Kevin Crane.
We are into the final month of 2024. This is where the shit hits the fan, the rubber meets the road. This is where we separate the men from the boys. College football playoffs just a few weeks away. NFL playoffs about a month away. And we have it all for you. Because, of course, we should be running everything here.
That's right, because nobody in charge is getting anything right anywhere.
And believe me, we have got a lot to talk about when it comes to that. And I am instituting a new rule. So we don't have any issues, you and I. You and I have known each other for, 30 years. And we never argue. We never fight. But
we have disagreements.
But a couple weeks ago, we got a little testy because of the whole Red Foreman dumbass thing. And you wanted to bring something up earlier, and I said no. And so what we're going to do now, last week we instituted a new rule for the weekend edition. By the way, every Saturday morning, your Saturday morning hangover cure.
For the best politically incorrect pop culture commentary.
So we decided if we're going to rip into Hollywood celebrities, we're going to let you know why they are unqualified to discuss politics and world affairs. So every time we bring up a celebrity, we will tell you what their educational background is.
Harumph.
So now for the sports edition, we are going to go ahead, if it flows into the normal cadence of the show. If it's going to be at the end of the show as a dumbass, that's fine, but we will discuss it when it comes up, regardless of where it comes up during this show, because I think it's going to happen a couple times.
It more than likely could.
So I don't want to get into that anymore, because Dave's about the only person on the face of God's green earth that likes me, so I need to keep him on my side. Especially when he's elected.
We get that in blood.
Yeah, especially when, I'm the fifth member of Motley Crue. Especially in 4 years when we elect him president of the United States. All right, as always at this time of the year, we start off with the National Football League. Kind of a good news, bad news scenario for the Chicago Bears this week.
Oh.
The bad news is the embarrassment that was the opening game on Thanksgiving Day.
How many weeks in a row of embarrassment by the lack of intelligence of the head coach once again cost them a game?
Lions lost to the Bears 23-20 because
Lions beat the Bears.
Oh, sorry. Thanks to the last ineptitude, the last 30 seconds, 25 seconds of that game in Detroit at Ford Field.
34 freaking seconds wasted. They didn't get a play into Williams, and Eberflus is so damn dumb he can't call a timeout to reset early to give them 2 shots at the end zone before trotting out the field goal attempt. Absolute idiot. No, I gotta have it for the field goal attempt. If you're in disarray and chaos, you have to use it. Hence, did you learn nothing from the Hail Mary game?
Because you can't kick the field goal if there's no time on the clock.
Ugh.
Now, I will say this. I will side with the few people out there who are dissenting to a certain extent. That Caleb Williams at some point has got to be aware of the clock. And when it gets down to 12, 11 seconds, he's got to be at some point turning his head to the sidelines.
He was.
Call the timeout.
He
Do something.
He was motioning to the sidelines, and they asked him point up, did you have the authority to call a timeout in those situations? And he's like, maybe at a future point in my career I'll be able to, but right now I'm to defer to the head coach.
And it was a shame because they played arguably the best team in the NFL toe-to-toe, especially in the second half.
It was so frustrating. And you could tell how this season's gone with Williams' development, that he's not allowed to do certain things. That Eberflus has put the brakes on him. It's frustrating.
Yeah, and I have not seen a ton of Jaden Daniels this year. Finally got to see a little bit of Bo Nix this past Monday night. And they are far and away. This class of quarterbacks should be the benchmark in recent memory.
Yeah, it's been a long damn time.
About 6 or 7 years since we've seen a class like this. And everybody, even those in the media outside of Chicago, are saying Caleb Williams is the right pick. He's got something. He can be developed into a superstar. Just like they're saying about Nix, just like they're saying about Daniels.
Yeah.
We might end up seeing Michael Penix sooner rather than later in Atlanta.
You would think it would be sooner because,
let's
face it, Cousins is done.
And I'm hearing great things about Drake May. They get some tools, some talent around him. McCarthy, we just don't know with the injury. But this is a stellar quarterback class. The shame of it is this is the Bears doing what the Bears do. You and I have discussed this for the past couple months. They should have fired Eberflus before the season.
Yep, started from scratch.
Set this up with a different head coach. And a lot of people pointed out something very interesting. The press conference with Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. How Ryan Poles looked like a chastised little boy.
He was being chastised during the press conference, saying, pretty much listening to Warren rip apart the decision to have hired Eberflus in the first place, and Waldron and everybody. And the undertones were, they better get this one right or Poles is gone.
Yeah, because I look back at the timeline, just making sure. I'm getting older. Memory's getting a little fuzzy. Like to verify that, of course, Eberflus was hired just days after they brought in Poles.
Yeah, it was, within a week?
Yeah. So this is not one where we can sweep it under the rug and say, well, this isn't Poles' fault. This was his first big decision.
Yep,
and he
blew it. And how much influence did Ted Phillips and the McCaskies have?
Well, we're going to find out.
Well, you also have to remember Mr. Polian was a big influence in the search, as was Trace Armstrong, Eberflus's agent, who was also Ryan Poles' agent. So there's a lot of hinky stuff going on. Because Polian's ties to the Colts, Eberflus coming from the Colts. I think Eberflus was kind of pushed upon Poles. But Poles should have stood up and canned his ass after last season.
Now, early speculation, of course, is Cliff Kingsbury. I don't want Cliff Kingsbury. Maybe under other circumstances I'd be okay with it, but the fact that you would have to put your tail between your legs after you interviewed him for the OC job
and gave it to Shane fucking Waldron.
And now you're going to go back to him and say, now we want you as the head coach. Number one, doesn't work for me. And number two, don't forget how his Arizona Cardinals teams choked at the end of almost every season where he was the head man. I'm hearing maybe there's momentum building for possibly, even though I still don't think it's going to happen because they're in the same division, but Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson is a big possibility.
I will take Ben Johnson. I still don't think it's going to happen. I don't see him taking a job in the same division as the team that brought him up through the OC ranks.
Yeah, that might be a tough sell. He might wind up going to either Cleveland or Cincinnati because they could possibly be on the outs. Would he want to go to the Giants?
I think
Would he want to go to the Jets?
Why would you want to go to the Giants?
Nobody
or the
wants
Jets?
to go to New York in any way, shape, or form.
Cincinnati could be extremely intriguing. And when we do our picks for this upcoming week, we'll talk more about Cincinnati. Cleveland, I think Stefanski is safe because people are seeing now when he put Jameis Winston in. God bless Jameis Winston, by the way. I love Jameis. I love him. He's a train wreck, but he's got to be exciting the fans in Cleveland.
They have something to root for now.
497 yards on Monday Night Football against one of the best defenses in the league. 4 touchdowns, but 2 pick sixes. And then at the press conference after the game, basically looking up to the sky and going, I'm paraphrasing, but God bless this opportunity, but please, please, please take away the pick sixes.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking for them.
But he's who would ever thought we'd say Jameis Winston is such an upgrade from Deshaun Watson 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, we never would have thought that.
So I think Stefanski is safe in Cleveland because now they're seeing what he can do when he's not force-fed Deshaun
Shackled
Watson.
To
yeah,
the quarterback who should not have been signed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So going back to the Bears, of course, Matt Eberflus, stellar record as the Bears head coach, 14-32, including 5-17 in games decided by 7 points or less.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
No. So you want to talk about a rapid ascension through the ranks? Thomas Brown, just anointed offensive coordinator a few weeks ago, will now take over
as interim head coach. Oh,
because
God,
I swear to God, there's nobody else on that staff left over from Eberflus that's remotely qualified.
No, they're not. Nowhere even close.
And again, what does that tell you? What does that tell you?
The ineptitude.
And I don't know how you feel. I don't know how you feel about this, but I know we talk about it pretty much every week, but I have no faith that the McCaskies of this front office will do the right thing.
No, they have got to prove it. Warren said we have got to prove it starting going forward. We know there's no faith right now, and he's right. Nobody has any faith in that organization.
No.
How do you get faith? You drag in Johnson.
I'm going to put a name out there. Outside of Cliff Kingsbury. And I will tell you, it's either going to be Kingsbury or this guy. Because I have no faith in this team anymore. How you feel about your Chicago White Sox is pretty much how I'm feeling now about the Bears. Because I told you, I'm on record.
It sucks to be a Chicago fan.
I am on record, and I told you, if they fuck up Caleb Williams, I'm done. I'm done. There is no hope for this franchise.
No, there isn't. We've been down this road too many damn times.
It's either going to be Cliff Kingsbury or Bobby Slowick.
Oh, God.
Offensive coordinator for the Texans.
I do not want Slowick. No way
I didn't say I want him. I'm saying this is the kind of thinking that you're going to get from this inept front office.
You know another name that was bandied about out there?
How could you get any worse than these two, Slowick and Kingsbury?
The Artie Party was mentioned.
What? I thought he was going to go to North Carolina.
No, Art Smith's name was floated out there.
Oh, my God. No, supposedly the Tar Heels, after they fired Mac Brown, reached out to Artie. and asked if he would be interested in taking over the program at North Carolina.
Please get
Oh
him
God,
the
yeah,
hell
let
out.
him go to North Carolina. That would be worse. That would be 10 times worse.
Yeah. But that would be the Bears bearsing themselves again.
The night game on Thanksgiving was your Dolphins.
Yep.
And turned out just like we thought.
Just like we thought. Packers rolled them.
Because they cannot play in cold weather.
Nope. Never have been able to.
Dolphins 5-7 now. After losing to the Packers 30-17.
Blah.
Tua put up a bunch of nice gaudy stats in garbage time. My Buccaneers barely survive the Carolina Panthers, who are actually playing very well right now. Because remember, last week, they took the Chiefs
to
the last
wire.
minute. Yeah. So the Buccaneers get back to 6-6 after they beat the Panthers 26-23 in overtime. I will stand by my bold prediction last week. They are still the third best team in the NFC after the Eagles and after, of course, the Lions. And they have now caught the Falcons.
Yep, who are choking it away. Cousins is just not good.
Yeah, I did not think, with the Chargers not having any really good, healthy running backs, going on the road, with all the talent the Falcons have, how much of this do we lay? I have not heard anybody criticize Raheem Morris, the head coach. But Kirk Cousins throwing 4 picks.
Come on, you cannot keep running him out there.
The interesting thing is, of course, number one with the Falcons, as the Chargers did win 17-13 on the road. The interesting thing is, number one, they drafted Michael Penix in the top 10 in this past draft. Number two, the way, even though Kirk Cousins just got a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
The way it's structured is they would only end up taking a big hit for year 2.
Right. So it's
and the thing is,
kind of a friendly contract for them.
If you look at it a certain way, if you look at what you're paying Penix, combining that with what you would have to pay Cousins if you did release him or cut him for next year, for 2025, you could justify it. It's roughly 55 million. Overall, you're paying for your quarterback for a year, which a lot of teams are paying.
Which a lot of teams already are, so it's
and
not
then you're
that
pretty much
ugly.
free and clear of Cousins after that. So it's a very shrewd, clever little situation that the front office in Atlanta set up. But
still,
the thing that worries me is, why would you even sign Kirk Cousins
and
if you kind of knew something might be wrong with him coming off the Achilles, right? If you kind of figured something might be off or wrong with him, why even bother?
Why did you give him a 4-year deal?
You could have just drafted Penix anyway.
Right. And just moved on and started his development.
Very odd. Very odd. But that's what these teams do. They will flush money. Denver flushed money on Russell Wilson, and now look at them. They look great.
It was a good move for both parties.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, there you go. Some people just don't mesh.
And speaking of the situation with the Denver Broncos in the last few years, we moved to Russell Wilson.
Yep.
And we move to the god-awful, atrocious defense of the Cincinnati Bengals.
My God, how is bad that defense is.
This could be the worst defense of all time.
How do you
Could be the worst defense of all time.
How does that piss-poor Steelers offense put up 44 points?
In Cincinnati.
Yeah, that is just god-awful, horrendous.
And I know they love Lou Amarillo, the defensive coordinator who's been there for a while.
But come on, he does not have these guys playing at any level.
You should have fired his ass before this
year,
game, or before this game at least,
they
because
have
now
been
they're
so
out.
bad.
Now they're down
Yeah.
to 4-8.
Yeah, there's no hope.
Yeah.
And Burrow comes out and says, the rest of this year is an audition for guys to step up, to prove if they want to be here or not.
And we already know, since they're a cheap organization, I imagine they will pay Jamar Chase. They've already paid Joe Burrow. T. Higgins is gone.
Yeah.
Because they are a cheap organization. They won't invest a lot of money in the defense.
No, which is what's screwing them over year in and year out.
But they have got to get a different voice in that locker room to at least coach up the guys they've got.
Yeah. No,
it couldn't be any worse.
Not much.
They flushed this year down the toilet because Burrow's putting up MVP numbers.
Yeah, he and Chase have been frickin' stellar this year.
By the way, now I'm not going to call this a dumbass of the week move, but now we know that in-season Hard Knocks just started on HBO Max, featuring the AFC North, including the Cincinnati Bengals. And one of the things to come out of the first episode was that Joe Burrow bought one of the Batmobiles from the Dark Knight trilogy for $3 million. Yet, it's not street legal, so he can't drive it anywhere.
What's the fucking point?
That's pretty much the consensus opinion I'm getting, except a lot of people are prefacing it by saying, but it's still fucking cool. I'd love to own a Batmobile.
It is fucking cool. Is
So-
that why he's nicknamed Joe Cool?
Mr. Freeze. Speaking of the Steelers, by beating the Bengals 44-38, the Steelers clinch their 21st consecutive non-losing season, including all 18 seasons with Mike Tomlin at the helm. That is impressive. That's called a stable franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, consistent.
God bless you, Steelers fans. You don't understand what you've got. You are so lucky. And yes,
If
Mike
only.
Tomlin at the press conferences sounds a little bit silly at times with his wordplay.
But you know what? He's still having fun.
I love him. I have definitely over the last 4 or 5 years completely done a 180 on him, where I
Yeah.
thought he was overrated. I am never going to bash Mike Tomlin ever again. Never.
It's
And
hard to.
They're another franchise that doesn't necessarily sign guys to huge, massive contracts.
No, they don't. But they just get
Their front office
the
is smart
right
enough
time.
to cycle guys in and out through the draft. They draft extremely well, but they never really overpay a ton of players to
No.
the point where they put themselves in salary cap hell.
No, they draft well and they have enough money and they sign intelligently. They don't overpay.
Yeah. By the way, you remember a certain wide receiver they had recently, Deontay Johnson? And they decided to ship his ass out of town?
Yeah.
Send him to the Panthers?
And he's doing nothing.
And then the Panthers traded him to the Ravens?
Where
News
he's got
came-
one catch.
News came down today. He has been suspended by the Ravens for refusing to play in the last game.
Wow. Why would he do that? Maybe because they weren't throwing his way?
Maybe because he's just not that goddamn good.
That could be too.
And I'll tell you what, the other receiver for the Steelers, George Pickens, better watch his ass too.
He is an immature pain in the ass. He's going to find his way out of Pittsburgh real damn quick. Like his coach said, he needs to grow up.
Yeah, they won't put up with that. They will figure out a way to make it work without him.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking, especially on the weekend edition, about, snowflakes and namby-pambies upset with the outcome of the election. But now, this past week, nobody might be any more upset than New York Jets fans. Because they were hoping and praying that Donald Trump would once again nominate Woody Johnson, their owner, to be the UK ambassador like he was in the last Trump regime.
Yep, trying to get Woody out from managing the team in any way, shape, or form.
But Trump went another direction, so Jets fans are really, really, really pissed off.
Damn it, we don't want an owner that involved. This reeks of Jerry Jones.
Going back to our games from last week, the Vikings, again, barely hold on at home.
Squeak one out over the Cardinals.
23-22.
Ugh.
The Colts barely survive in New England, beating the Patriots 25-24. Of course, these are the games that we picked on our slate, our 8 expert panelists. Rams keep their playoff hopes alive and pretty much put the Saints out to pasture.
Yep, 21-14.
Massive injury for the Saints. Taysom Hill tears his ACL. He is done for the year.
Yeah, that hurts them badly.
Yep. Impressive win for the Eagles going into Baltimore, beating the Ravens 24-19.
And it wasn't even that close.
I cannot tell you how impressed I am with this Eagles team.
Yeah, the score is closer. Makes it look like a closer game than it was.
And you and I bought into the Ravens again, and it came back and bit us.
Again.
And I don't want to hear anybody else. I said this last week. I don't want to hear anybody yapping about Lamar Jackson for his third MVP.
No.
Enough with that bullshit. Enough with that bullshit. He is not an
MVP. That ship has sailed.
It's got to be right now either Josh Allen or Saquon Barkley.
Those are your two front runners. And it would be hard-pressed to keep it from Josh Allen right now after that impressive win in the snowstorm over the 49ers. My God, ran for a touchdown, threw for touchdowns, and was credited with a receiving touchdown.
Yeah, that I still don't understand that. I still don't understand
I don't either.
But the Bills win 35-10. 49ers, just like the Bengals, write them off.
Yep, they're done. And, guess what? Christian McCaffrey done for the season.
Yep, PCL injury. And then his backup, Jordan Mason, with a high ankle sprain, also goes to the IR. So now they're down.
They're both pretty much done for the season.
So now they go to their third string running back, Isaac Guerendo.
Yeah, and then his backup is coming in off the practice squad.
So yeah, in this case, I think the 49ers, the front office, just got to say, this is a lost season.
We're done.
I don't know what we could have done any different here to combat these injuries and a brutal schedule. They had a miserably tough schedule.
Yeah, but they woefully even before most of the injuries, they were underperforming.
Well, I'll tell you, the one guy who some people love, you'll notice I never draft him in fantasy football, Deebo Samuel.
Yep, nope.
His numbers are always, to me, so unimpressive.
They're very pedestrian.
Yep.
That's why, if he stays on the field, McCaffrey, but how much can you rely on him? And then this year, that freak injury to Brandon Ayuk, he's been the stalwart.
Yep. And that you notice, once Ayuk got hurt, Jawan Jennings ended up putting up better numbers than Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
And then George Kittle has actually had a very good year.
Yeah, he's probably his most stable, consistent season.
In quite a while, yes. But yeah, it's a lost season for the 49ers, even with that mess that is the NFC West.
Yeah.
And then finally, On the injury front, since we've covered all our games from last week, we'll get ready to pick our games for this week, but this is going to be one of those moments I alluded to at the beginning of the podcast. This is going to be one of those dumbass of the week moments where we have to discuss it a little bit more in its area, in its context here, as we recap the NFL. And that would be Trevor Lawrence pretty much now out for the year.
Yep, took a wicked shot.
He's concussed. He just got put on IR today because of Houston linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair. And this is where I will nominate him for Dumbass of the Week, along with many other people connected with this.
Yes, absolutely.
I think you and I are simpatico on how we feel about this, but there are a lot of assholes out there in the NFL, and we'll get into detail. This is what I was talking about. Dave and I need to get into detail on this more so than we could
in the dumbass segment
at the end of the show. So Azeez Al-Shaair leads with his forearm
into Trevor Lawrence's face.
You can argue that Lawrence might have slid a little late. That does not excuse the forearm shiver to the head.
You could see Lawrence was going down, and as Al-Shaair came in, you could see him put that forearm out there deliberately right at the last second. That wasn't a mistake. I'm sorry. It was not. And this is what? His fourth incident?
And that's what John
this
Runyon...
season alone.
John Runyon brought out. Of course, John Runyon now, many people are trying to basically cast aspersions on him because of his career in the NFL. He is now in charge of the discipline for the NFL because he had some dirty plays.
Who better to combat dirty plays than a guy who committed them? I think he would know what it looks like.
But as they suspended Al-Shaair for 3 games, which
was upheld
just before we started taping here on December the 4th, 2024, he went into a massive amount of detail about why. This was just not an isolated incident.
No.
This is a pattern of behavior for Al-Shaair. Now, I would like to point out, I won't get into the detail. He choked out Tom Brady one point in time in the past. He took a swing at Caleb Williams.
Yeah, he took a cheap shot at Caleb Williams going out of bounds. And when Roshan said something to him, he punched Roshan.
There you go. Yep.
Johnson.
Yeah, that was this year.
That was this year.
Yeah, the Brady,
so
of course, was in the past.
Brady in the past.
Because
and then,
he didn't go up in the broadcast booth and choke him.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
So
sometimes I would like to do that. But here's the thing. Let's point out some other things outside of the on-field behavior. And then we'll get into the apologists who will share in with our nomination with Azeez Al-Shaair for Dumbass of the Week. Mr. Al-Shaair also, this is something I can't stand that Roger Goodell does. Aren't we done with this bullshit propaganda that we put on the sidelines, on the end zones? Stop hate, end racism. We still got it on the helmets. Aren't we done with this woke bullshit?
No, not yet.
Then they do the my cause, my cleats thing. And most of the players who do it,
they have great charities that they're sponsoring.
Mr. Al-Shaair decided to go with a pro-Palestinian theme for his cleats. Now, ostensibly because he says it's for a children's charity, I'm sure it passed muster and they let it slide, but his explanation basically makes it sound like, oh, the Jews are killing Palestinian children, so I need to make sure we promote this charity that helps heal the Palestinian children, ignoring completely all the Israeli children
that
that
Hamas and those dipsticks have been killing. So,
it
yeah.
never ever benefits anybody to take a side in a war.
No, it's not a good thing.
And then, of course, after he got kicked out of the game against Jacksonville, after the Trevor Lawrence hit, he gets on social media and starts to call all the people who thought he had made a dirty play racist and Islamophobic fans.
No.
And then he says the press is just looking to make him out to be the quote-unquote villain. Because they need a villain.
No, I think you're doing a damn good job of making yourself a villain with the dirty plays you continue to pile up this season.
Now, let's get into my ancillary dumbasses. General Manager Nick Caserio, the Texans GM, came out in defense of Al-Shaair, talking about how we don't know what type of person he is.
I think we do, based on his on-field actions.
I want to point out the fact that Mr. Caserio was also the guy who stuck up for one Deshaun Watson.
Bingo!
When he was quarterback for the Texans, before they got him out of town as quickly
as they possibly could.
And then, on my new favorite morning show, Breakfast Ball, this is a reason why I've never thought, I've liked this guy, but I've never thought he was a top-tier commentator, is Mark Schlereth. Because Mark Schlereth acts like he's better than the rest of us because he played in the NFL. And as he's trying to defend Al-Shaair, he has to preference everything with, let me educate you on this. The first fucking thing you can do to get me to hate you
is say, let me educate you.
I don't care if it's football. I don't care if it's cooking. I don't care if it's any aspect of life. When you start off with
do not denigrate my intelligence in that way.
So right off the bat there, when he starts off as he's trying to defend Al-Shaair, saying, let me educate you people who didn't play football. I have watched football for 50 years. Okay? Since I was 9 years old, I have watched football. And I have eyes. I can see what's going on the field. Maybe I didn't play at a professional level, but Danny Parkins, by the way, needs to stop acting like the wuss bag all the time and taking the shots. I know, I'm a wuss bag, and my son will never play football because he's a wuss bag. I'm like, would you just grow a pair, Danny?
Up, Danny.
And tell Schlereth, hey, I know Parkins has been watching football for as long as he's been around. By the way, us, much longer.
Yeah.
Parkins is a young pup compared to us.
Yeah, Parkins was conceived at halftime of the '85 Bears winning the Super Bowl, as he's proud to proclaim.
But you need to stand up to Mark Schlereth, because he is the kind of arrogant prick
that needs to be stopped.
Anytime you say, let me educate you, or you don't understand, let me explain it to you. These are the people that need to be punched in the face repeatedly, because you are denigrating the people you're discussing the topic with, the audience. So the minute Mark Schlereth wants to tell me I don't know anything about the hit from Al-Shaair on Trevor Lawrence because I didn't play the game at a high level, kiss my ass, Mark.
We've seen enough hits, legal and illegal, through these decades of watching game after game, week after week.
So the best news I got today was when we started taping and Dave told me that 3-game suspension was upheld.
Thank God.
Roger Goodell's showing a little bit of guts, a little bit of balls.
Doesn't happen often.
Oh, there are worse commissioners, and we'll get to them later. But we have picks for this week, NFL Week 14. Starting off Thursday night, December the 5th. By the way, this episode will drop early on December the 5th. Amazon's getting some great games Thursday night.
Yeah, I know, after all the turds they got in year one.
And then we talked about last week the fact they flexed the game.
2 Thursday night, fucking the fans over. Absolutely hate that.
Yeah. Yeah, and check out the weekend edition. We're going to have a little bit of a rant about, once again, the concert industry screwing the fans over. Packers at the Lions. A massively important NFC North battle.
This should be a doozy.
We got 7 of our 8 panelists with their picks in right now.
Yep, and all of us are going with the Lions.
I'll admit, by now, at this point in the season, there are teams I love and teams I hate. Teams I trust, teams I don't trust.
I trust the Lions. I don't trust the Packers.
I still don't trust the Packers. There's something about that team that I can't put my finger on it, but I don't. Jordan Love will make the mistake, the bad mistake. I think a lot of these teams aren't playing the Packers correctly is the problem.
No, they're
shut down Josh Jacobs.
They are playing the Packers like most everybody plays the Chiefs. They're playing scared. They're not playing to win. They're playing to try not to lose. And you have got to be aggressive. And when you have them lined up, don't start tiptoeing around Love like you tiptoe around Mahomes. You get the chance, hit him. Sack him.
But there's a reason why they've got all these young receivers. Aaron Rodgers. Oh, by the way. A little bit of a tangent here before we get back to the Packers-Lions game. Did you see that coming December 17th on Netflix? Can't wait for this, Dave. Aaron Rodgers Enigma.
Yeah.
Did you watch the trailer?
I did not. I heard about it. It's Aaron Rodgers self-promoting Aaron Rodgers. Come on.
I had to watch it once. There's no way in holy hell I watched this miniseries.
There's no fucking way.
I had to watch the trailer once, and it is priceless. Some of the stuff that's in this is priceless. Him with the face paint on down in South America.
Oh, God, doing his ayahuasca retreat.
Yeah, and he's on a treadmill, and somebody in the background says, "You shouldn't be running. People don't do this." I'm not like other people.
Yeah, no shit, you're an idiot.
And then, of course,
oh, God.
Kennedy Jr. Have you ever considered politics?
Oh, good Lord.
It is going to be a self-promotional clusterfuck.
And anybody of any intelligence will stay away from it.
But going back to the Packers-Lions game, all these young receivers, they were a big reason why he wanted out.
Right, he didn't want to have to work and develop anybody.
Now, maybe we're starting to see why, because Jordan Love doesn't seem to really know what to do with any of them. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs.
Now,
Wick,
is that more
Reed,
of an indictment on LaFleur as the head coach and offensive coordinator?
He gets the skates, it seems like, on anything and everything.
Because that offense is not clicking except for the running game. So when does LaFleur start getting called out for an inept passing game?
Because of the couple games that Malik Willis had to step in, everybody was saying, "Oh, he's coach of the year. He's coach of the year."
And then that offense has taken a step back when it comes to the passing game.
It didn't take a step forward, is what I'll say. You get your starter back. You get your starter back, and it didn't turn into this high-powered, juggernaut that we thought it was going to be. So yeah, I'll take the Lions. I'll take the ultra efficient Jared Goff. And people are trying to just like with the Chiefs, people are trying to find excuses to pick on the Lions. And I'm hearing, well, ever since they lost Hutchinson, that defense is a little suspect. I'll be fine with
They're
Aaron Glenn's
going to
defense.
be all right. Don't
I'm
worry
fine with
about
Aaron
it.
Glenn's defense. Another guy. Dan Campbell might lose both coordinators.
He could.
This year. So like Dave said, Lions across the board. Didn't we used to do this in the old days on Sports Frenzy? We've been alluding to it the past couple weeks. Didn't we have the shitty pick of the week? What did we call it? What did we call it back in the day?
God, I don't remember.
The dumpster fire pick of the week?
Something like that. The dumpster fire, the shit bowl, the...
We used to have one game every week between two awful teams. And you've been alluding to it. Why did you put this game on the slate, Kev? Why did you do this to us? Well, here it is again.
Yep.
Now that my mind is kicked back in.
Our dumpster game of the week. Jaguars at the Titans.
It's Sunday, December the 8th.
God.
Trevor Lawrence out. Mac Jones steps in for the rest of the year. That's all I need to know.
That's all I needed to know. The Titans' defense is good enough.
The Titans for you and me, Bill, Nick, and Doug, Aaron, and Sam go with Jacksonville.
Wow. Crazy.
And plus, on top of that, you would think Jacksonville is in tankathon mode. They're in line for the number 1 overall pick. So why would they want to win?
Why would you blow that?
Yeah. Falcons at the Vikings. We just talked about Kirk Cousins. 4 interceptions at home against the Chargers. I know the Chargers have a good defense, but it's not that good.
No. And he's going up against another decent defense who are going to be playing at home. So
it'll probably be a close game. I mean, I would not. We pick straight up. I would not want to pick.
I wouldn't take the spread.
Yeah, 6 points. It'll be another field goal type game.
Yeah,
but I'm not taking Kirk Cousins.
I'm not taking that Falcons team.
Kirk Cousins has got to prove it to me from here on out.
Yep. Everybody's going Vikings except Doug's taking the Falcons. Seahawks at the Cardinals. God, there's your frickin' NFC West again. Good God, what a train wreck.
Yep.
You don't know what to expect from either of these teams. One week they look great, the next week they look like hell.
Yeah, right now the Seahawks are the one on the rise. The Cardinals are the one falling.
And
after
just a few weeks earlier, it was the other way around.
Yep.
I don't trust either of these teams.
I agree with you on that, 100%. But somebody's got to win.
Yep, I'm taking the team on the rise right now, which would be the Seahawks. So I've got them along with Bill, Doug, and Aaron.
I have the Cardinals along with Sam and Nick. Logic for this, simply, they're at home. And Geno Smith, I have tried to stick by him and back him up as one of these guys like Sam Darnold, who has found a new life in his second, third, fourth team. But his numbers this year are not good. No. Kenneth Walker is hit and miss in the running game.
They don't have an offensive coordinator.
I've got to believe that James Conner, Marvin Harrison, even though he's been up and down, but Trey McBride at tight end is the difference maker.
McBride is insane.
McBride
he
will end up
single-handedly beat me in fantasy football.
McBride and Bowers right now are your two tight end studs for the year.
Yeah.
And they both are catching 10 passes a game. He will be the difference. I'm taking the Cardinals, but like you said, plenty of dissent here amongst our ranks.
Yep. Then, next, we have the Bills going out to L.A. to play the Rams.
Bills have already locked up the division.
Yeah.
The AFC East.
They need to keep winning to hope that Kansas City falls so they can get home field advantage. They need to win, win, win. They're a much better team than the Rams.
And this is still an NFC West scenario, too.
Yep.
So keep in mind that the Rams Rams could drop another game back of whoever wins that Seahawks-Cardinals game.
Yep.
And then we've talked about the 49ers and what a mess they are, but they're playing the Bears this week. Will the Bears be rejuvenated?
With a new head coach? Who knows?
The 49ers on their third string running back.
They've got nothing.
Who knows how healthy Brock Purdy is?
Yeah.
No, we're not picking that game.
No. But Bills for everybody, and I can tell you, Mrs. C. Jen will take the Bills. So it'll be 7-1. Nick, the lone dissenter, taking the Rams.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Bills are the better team, but this NFC West is fascinating to me.
It's weird.
Remember the year that the Seahawks won it when they were 7-9?
Yeah, they make the playoffs.
And then they won in the game where Marshawn Lynch setting off the seismic force of that crowd.
Yeah, the earthquake game.
We could be headed for that again.
You never know. Then we've got the Chargers going into Kansas City to play the Chiefs.
Chiefs coming off a loss to the Bills a couple weeks ago, of course.
Yep. Still not that.
No, they barely won on Black Friday. If it wasn't for a botched snap.
Yeah.
The Raiders could have beaten them.
So they are beatable. The Chargers offense, I don't know if they have enough. Their defense can hold them, but it's the offense that's questionable. Aaron thinks the Chargers will do it. He's the only one. The rest of us taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, God bless Jim Harbaugh. God bless him for what he's done with that team.
But they're missing.
Yeah, they're basically on their second string running back, and they didn't have any depth
to begin with.
Yeah, with J.K. Dobbins, who was a reclamation project in and of himself. You still got Quentin Johnson, who can't catch a football. All you've got, as far as wide receivers go, is Ladd McConkey. It's not a lot for Justin Herbert to work with.
No, there's not much there. And then, wrapping it up, you could almost call this dumpster fire, too.
This is going to be a glorious shit show, though. This one I will watch. Whereas the Jaguars and Titans might be one of the few NFL games I would not
bail
watch.
On. This could be interesting.
Well, you're going to watch it because your fantasy team.
Yeah, for the fantasy purposes.
Me too.
Bengals at the Cowboys.
Now, the Cowboys have won a couple games in a row. They are still on the outside looking in, but have life in the NFC playoff picture.
I know, but still, it's just...
Bengals at the Cowboys.
Doug's taking the Cowboys. The rest of us are hitching our wagons to the Bengals.
It's tough, though, because
it's hard.
How am I supposed to trust the Bengals defense against anybody?
You know what it comes down to? The quarterbacks. Who do you trust?
Well, obviously, I trust Burrow more than Cooper Rush.
There you
but
go.
I trust the Cowboys defense more than I trust the Bengals defense.
And they're still not that good either.
How hard does T. Higgins play? Now that the Bengals are pretty much out of the playoff picture, he doesn't want to get injured going into his big free agency contract year. You know, he's going to sign a big deal in the offseason with somebody else.
Yeah, but he's got to perform to show that he's worth something.
Yeah, and then you've got on the flip side, you've got CeeDee Lamb, who just got paid, and now
he
acts like, do I really need to play? Yeah, killing my fantasy team.
Yeah.
So I'm on a higher wire with both of these wide receivers on Monday night on my fantasy team. We'll see. We'll see. Mr. Batmobile will still score you 25 points.
Mr. Chase hopefully will get me at least 20.
Although, didn't you and Sam both lose this week?
We both did. We're still pacing.
Tighten things up a little bit.
It did. It snugged things up.
So, all right. And Aaron, what the hell? I saw he put up, 170 on you?
McLaurin and what's the tight end from Arizona?
Oh, Trey McBride.
McBride and McLaurin. Those were his two big games.
Doesn't he have Barkley too? And Barkley didn't even have a huge
didn't
game.
have a huge game, but it was
Yeah.
McBride and McLaurin
Yep.
who stepped up big time.
So things in our fantasy league are still shifting and moving. And the one game that pissed me off was I saw that Nick won by like a point or two, and if he'd lost, that would have almost locked us 4 in. You and me and Sam and Aaron, and we could have taken it easy the last couple weeks, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
But because he won everybody would have beat him except the one team that he was playing. That's the glory of fantasy football for you kids.
You just never know.
All right. Time to move on to college. College football. We're not going to recap every game from last week, but we will, of course, discuss the big ones. And we start off with the game that we were monitoring while we were watching Jackal. Check out the weekend edition for our full review of the Black Friday family reunion at the 8 Second Saloon in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, what a glorious show.
But we were, throughout the entire night, watching Georgia and Georgia Tech on the phone.
Yep, had it going. That was a knockdown, drag out, going to 8 overtimes?
44-42 final score. In 8 overtimes, Georgia beats Georgia Tech.
And at that point in the game, that was the depth of Georgia. Georgia's defensive line.
So that pretty much, and we'll get to this in a minute, but pretty much even though they're not guaranteed to win the SEC, of course having to play Texas here, we'll have our picks for you on that in a few minutes. But now the CFP, the geniuses of the CFP committee say, well, this pretty much guarantees Georgia's spot, even if they lose the SEC championship and
that
record
would be a
3
third
losses.
How can you legitimately justify 2 3-loss teams from the SEC making the final 12?
And we'll get to that in a few minutes. Notre Dame, having a great year. Cannot dispute it. Cannot deny it. 11-1. They beat USC 49-35, locking up a home game for the first round of the CFP. They are number 4 in the AP rankings. Congratulations to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Just because you're Hurricanes.
I told you! If we had picked the game, I picked Syracuse to win the game in Bill's confidence pool.
Because Miami's defense is abysmal.
And I texted you and Jamie, our unofficial 9th member, 20 minutes into the game. Now, the play that spurred me to text you guys got called back. I flipped the game on. Syracuse had like a monster play for a touchdown early on. And I turned the game off, texted you guys, said, I can't watch this.
Done.
I can't watch this. And it ended up being called back. And then Miami builds up a 21-0 lead. And they blow it.
Ouch.
42-38. So Miami drops to 10-2, drops to the 14th slot in the AP poll. But I have issues. And not because I'm a Miami fan. No. I have issues with Alabama. Let's go through last week's games. And then Dave and I are going to
bullshit that is the CFP.
Delve deeply into the latest CFP rankings. Now, the first thing, let me preface this by saying, Dave hates me because I'm gonna rip through these real quick. I don't care.
That's fine.
I'm done with the football picks. Here's something, number one, I want to talk to you about. And we're gonna let the kids in on some sports frenzy tradecraft secrets here.
Are you going to propose we abolish
No. But every once in a while, we got to let everybody know, those who might be joining in for the first time or haven't been listening for very long, we have 5 competitions
Yes.
every year amongst the 8 expert panel members, longtime friends.
Yeah.
We have NASCAR, we have March Madness, we do our brackets, we have football picks, we have fantasy football,
And then we have our baseball.
and we
picks.
have baseball. And that adds up every year to the Penta Frenzy, the ultimate championship. So whoever does the best in all 5, you have trophies for each of the 5,
Yep.
but then you get the Penta Frenzy if you did the best among all 5 cumulative. Here's my question to you. Out of the 5 competitions that we have right now, which one do you like the most and which one do you hate the most? I'll start.
Like the most, I like the fantasy football the most. The fantasy football is the most fun. It's
You're
the
not
least-
saying that just because you won last year, right?
No. It's the most fun. Because you draft, you know what you got, you can tweak, you kind of have more control over your own destiny in that regard.
There's more skill involved,
Yes, you have to put more thought in.
but not an overwhelming amount.
Right, no.
Waiver wire time every week. You got to figure out who you're going to go after and then setting your lineup. But outside of that, 2 times a week.
Yeah.
2 times a week.
Baseball is a slog. It's once a week, but it just takes. NASCAR is a slog. Again, 1 pick a week.
Right.
I hate basketball, but the tourney you just circle and go. The football picks is a drain. It is a drain. 20 to 27 picks a week to make. That is the one that is the hardest and most challenging to get through.
We need to get some tissues here in this studio because I'm about to cry because you feel me.
Well, you're the one that compiles them.
You get me. No, I was going to go the exact same place as you. Fantasy football. Isn't it amazing? Different sides of the same coin. Fantasy football the best. Football picks the worst. And why am I bitter? Because I can't fucking figure out how Sam and Bill are killing us. How are Sam and Bill doing this? Bill is literally at a record pace. Ever since we set up the more restrictive point spreads, where I have to put games on the slate that are 10 points or less point spread, we have not been able to really crack that 65% barrier.
Right.
Usually we're at 62, 61. Bill's at 66% right now, and we're almost to the bowl games.
How the fuck?
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't.
Dave and I are the smartest of the smart. And God bless us, we love Bill, but this is wrong. Something is wrong here.
We're overthinking it.
Dave is in 3rd place, and he's 11 games out.
Yeah.
And I'm further back now because of the shitty week I just had here with some of these games we're going to discuss. And again, just the highlights.
Fuck Wisconsin. Fuck Minnesota.
And I was off to a 5-0 start. I was off to a 5-0 start in college, and it all fell apart. When South Carolina beat Clemson, I'm like, glory, hallelujah, this is my move. This is my week where I make my move. And it all went down the toilet after that.
Blew up.
Kansas, kiss my ass. West Virginia, kiss my ass. Thank God they fired their head coach after that sham of a performance.
Michigan State. Seriously.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keanu, you pain in the ass.
He wins when we expect him to lose, and he loses when we expect him to win. Yeah, And so much for the loyalty to Mac Brown with the Tar Heels.
Oh, God, they just completely...
That was the killer, because that was an island pick for Sam.
Yeah, he was the only one to take NC State. Ugh.
Some of these I should have known better. I never picked Cincinnati over TCU. I don't know why we thought Kansas State would show up against Iowa State.
Because usually Iowa State lets us down in big showdowns.
So, this will all lead into the conference championship games. But before we get to those, now it's time for Dave and I to rant about the fools that run the CFP. And yes, I knew this was coming, because how could it not be a clusterfuck? There's no way this was going to be a clean and smooth transition to 12 teams.
And it's not as horrendous as it actually should be. It should be more straightforward and easier than it is. I mean, my God, you have got... Everybody thought, all right, it's those 2-loss teams that are generally on the outside looking in. Now you've got 3-loss teams jumping 2-loss teams to get in this. It's ridiculous. There's no reason for that.
Okay, now I need 2 minutes here. And then you can jump in. Of course, right now our big sticking point is the fact that Alabama at 9-3 is in. And as this idiot who's running the CFP, Ward Manuel, as he comes on TV on ESPN Tuesday night and explains it, his logic is so fucking flawed, it's ridiculous. Now, I am a Miami fan, and I have already stated, Dave, you'll back me up on this, Miami should not be in this, based on their defense. Their defense is... But, to make my point against Alabama, I am going to have to use Miami versus Alabama. Okay? So bear with me.
Go toe-to-toe.
Ward Manuel says the reason we took Alabama over Miami is twofold. Alabama 3-1 against top 25 teams, 6-1 against teams over 500. Miami is 0-1 against top 25 teams and 4-2 against teams over 500. Now let me explain math to Mr. Manuel. If Alabama is 6-1 against teams over 500 and they're 9-3, you know what that means? They are 3-2 against teams 500 or worse.
Yeah, that's not good.
Whereas Miami is 6-0 against teams 500 or worse. Therefore, and ergo, Miami's beating the teams they're supposed to beat, and
Alabama isn't.
Alabama lost to a 6-6 Vanderbilt team and a 6-6 Oklahoma team. Okay? So that right there, that's flaw number one in the logic. Now, flaw number two comes from Dave and I are old enough to remember. Remember when it was the top 20 and not the top 25?
Yeah.
So now we draw these arbitrary lines where, well, Alabama's 3-1 against top 25 teams and Miami's 0-1. But if we were to expand in the AP poll, if we were to expand from 25 to 35, because this is arbitrary, Alabama's still 3-1. But guess what happens with Miami's record? Miami, all of a sudden, if we include the top 35 teams, jumps up to 3-1.
Oh, matching.
Because they beat number 27, which I believe is Duke, number 28, Louisville, and number 33, Florida. So now, all of a sudden, it's evened out. So we're not even talking about the Georgia Tech team that Miami lost to, which I think is a quality loss because they took Georgia, as we just said, to 8 overtimes. They're a good team.
They are a very good team.
So Miami lost to a top 25 team in Syracuse and a damn good Georgia Tech team. I think my argument screws Ward Manuel and the CFP.
Ward Manuel sucks the SEC. He's taking it up the poop.
And what did I tell you? The conspiracy theory is this whole thing is set up.
It's a sham.
Where they're trying to guarantee 4 Big Ten, 4 SEC teams.
Which is damn ridiculous. This was supposed to stop all that crap. This was supposed to make it opened up for the Mountain West, the Big 12, all the other smaller conferences who are right there with records. You cannot have a 3-loss team in your top 12. End of discussion.
And again, the qualities of these 3-loss teams. Where's Mississippi?
They're a 3-loss team.
Mississippi's a 3-loss. South Carolina, arguably the hottest team in football right now.
They're a 3-loss team. Why are you arbitrarily picking Alabama and Georgia?
Because if Georgia loses to Texas,
that's their 3rd loss.
And yet they're being told they'll still be in.
Bullshit.
And get to host a playoff game.
3-loss teams have no business being in the Final 12. I don't care who they are.
If Clemson beats SMU, 3-loss team wins the ACC, SMU with 2 losses out.
Which is ridiculous.
Big 12 only gets 1 team in. Whoever wins between Iowa State, Arizona State. No other team gets in. Boise State, if they lose to UNLV.
UNLV is in.
And 2-loss Boise State out.
How do you justify 3-loss teams being in there?
Because they're Alabama and Georgia.
And Clemson if they win.
But at least Clemson will win their way in.
Okay, that's fine as a conference championship. Now,
and that's on Miami. That's on Miami.
Miami
created that clusterfuck.
Yeah. Now, at this point, why are we even bothering with conference championship games?
There's a lot of people asking, should we abolish the conference championship games?
I think we need to.
We've heard Lane Kiffin and I believe Nick Saban come out in the last month and a half saying we are going to reward teams like Alabama
for underperforming.
Indiana too. For not playing in a championship game, so now they get to just lock themselves in. Whereas teams have to play an extra game.
Yeah, no.
Like Boise State, where if they lose that extra game, they're out completely.
Yeah, the conference championship games need to go away. And you need to stop putting 3-loss teams in ahead of 2-loss teams. Don't give a shit who it is.
All right, sorry. All right, so there you go, kids. That is, for now, a rant about the CFP, but
now we still have to discuss these conference championship games on Spotify, Good Pods, Pocket Casts, Apple, Overcast, CastBox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeartSports Frenzy, baby.
Otherwise known as the great and glorious iHeartRadio. All of our podcast platform hosts are great and glorious. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page where our full panels picks will be up there every Thursday night all the way through football season, even through the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page. And as Dave always says, we're open for comments. Drop us a line.
Let us know what you think. Come on.
Let us know what you like about the podcast, what you hate. We'll ignore the hate stuff, but we'll take all the praise you can give us.
That's right.
All right, before we get to our picks, a little bit more in terms of college football news. Great game for Michigan in the game over Ohio State. Ohio State loses to Michigan 13-10. There's a brawl afterwards. There's the flag planting. Then there's
that shit just needs to stop.
And that happened in what, 3 or 4 games across?
Yeah, over the weekend.
The only cool one,
everywhere.
by the way, the only cool one was Arizona State. Did you see Arizona State?
No.
When they beat Arizona, they pulled out a trident. Not a flag, a trident.
And just popped it in.
Yeah, and then the problem was because it was down in Arizona, it was field turf, so it went in about an inch. So it really didn't work all that well. It kind of wobbled and fell over. But just the trident was so awesome.
There you go.
But yeah, this flag planting stuff,
it needs to stop.
It's a lack of sportsmanship, for the love of God. And you know, Dave and
Show some damn class.
You know, Dave and I aren't snowflakes, but yeah, show some class, show some respect. Your warrior's on a battlefield, you respect your opponent before you lop his fucking head off. But yeah, the game actually lived up to the pretentious name of the game.
Whatever.
Once again, deciding the fate of one of the two when it comes to the national championship. But again, Ohio State still gets locked in no matter what. Fired head coaches. Just a general overview. Purdue here locally in the upper Midwest. Ryan Walters, miserable 2 years in West Lafayette.
Yeah, he no bueno.
Yeah, fired after a cumulative 5-19 record, including, 1-11 this year?
Yeah, not good. And they weren't even competitive.
Nope. West Virginia, we mentioned them. Florida International, Appalachian State, and Ball State a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Fired their head coach. They just announced that his replacement, they got Butler's head coach.
Ooh.
Well, they're a football powerhouse, Dave. Come on. Oh, wait. No, that's basketball.
That's basketball.
Never mind. Then finally, I don't think the guy should be in the Hall of Fame. I liked him when he played in the NFL. He was great for the Colts. And I'm very happy now that he has found something in terms of football leadership to keep him going. Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck will now become the GM. Still trying to get used to that in the college ranks. General manager of the football program at Stanford, his alma mater.
Yeah, that just goes to show you how much their kids are getting paid.
Well, we'll never let go of this whole NIL bullshit. No. What did I see the other day? Shedeur Sanders somehow found the money to give his left tackle a brand new Maybach.
Oh my God.
But they're not, no. Give him give him everything. Give him a full scholarship. Give him a whore every night. Give him whatever you want.
Ridiculous.
And we have not lost our way? Okay.
Gone.
All right, so this week is conference championship week, as Dave has alluded to. 7 of our 8 panelists with their picks in. Starting Friday night, December the 6th. Western Kentucky at Jacksonville State. And this is a rematch of last week's game.
Yep.
Except it's flipped in terms of home field.
Yes, so last week, Western Kentucky beat Jacksonville State in Western Kentucky. This time, it's at Jacksonville State. We know how difficult it is to win twice against an opponent. But to go 2 weeks in a row, Jacksonville State at home. For me, you, Sam, Bill, and Aaron, Nick and Doug think lightning will strike twice and take in Western Kentucky.
Yeah, this one bit me on the ass, and in Bill's confidence pool in Sports Frenzy West, I had a 30 on this one last week for Jacksonville State.
Ugh.
So,
And
They better.
And it was a close game.
It was a last-second field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, this is now in Alabama, Jacksonville State's home turf, so they better goddamn well come through this time.
Yeah, no kidding. You cannot
now
lose
that point
at
spread
home.
has been going up and up and up, so it's almost at 5 right now, where it started out about 3.5.
We'll see.
Now the Mountain West.
A battle of top 20 teams.
Number 19, UNLV. Of course, these are AP rankings. At number 10, Boise State. Now, of course, once we get into the bigger conferences, they play at neutral sites, but the smaller ones reward the team with the best record with a home game.
Yep. God, it's hard to go against Boise State and their Heisman candidate running back.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking John T. is going to tear it up. He is on the verge of destroying the NCAA record books for rushing. It's at Boise on the blue field. I don't know how well UNLV is going to play in, let's say, mild to cold weather. So this was the one game, I will admit, though, where I was leaning towards possibly taking an upset, because Boise State has been a little shaky as of late. But home field, weather could be a factor.
Yeah.
Running game is definitely in Boise's advantage.
Yes. All right.
So that's across the board.
Boise State.
Everybody, all 7 picks in so far, take Boise State. Tulane at number 24, Army.
Wow.
Tulane destroyed me last week in the Sports Frenzy West Confidence Pool picks, because I had a heavy number on them and they got smoked by Memphis. Now, I don't like the one-dimensional offense that Army puts out there is my problem. And they never played, as a common opponent, never played Memphis, who was one of the tougher teams in their conference.
Right.
Army never had to play them. And Tulane, outside of that game, has been stellar.
They have been good.
It worries me.
Navy plays the similar offense, Navy plays the similar offense to Army. Tulane shut out Navy earlier in the season.
Yep.
So, if they can shut that down there, they can shut Army down here. I'm taking Tulane.
And this is one of our few chances to pick up a game on Bill.
Yep.
You and I, Sam, and Aaron take Tulane, Army for Bill, Nick, and Doug. And then we move on to Saturday, December the 7th. The big boys start up. The Big 12 Championship, number 16, Iowa State, versus number 12, Arizona State. I believe that is being played at Jerry's Palace in Arlington, Texas. Yep. So this is where we're getting into the neutral site games. I like Arizona State so much more than Iowa State, and maybe that's because I'm bitter because I have never been able to get a read on this Iowa State team.
Never can get a read on Iowa State. AZ State has been very, very solid down the stretch.
And of the 7 panelists who have their picks in, only Doug taking Iowa State. Everybody else taking the Sun Devils. Now, this is an example of I'm going with the team that treated me well last week. This is like if you go on a date with a girl and she's really nice to you and maybe gives you a hand job. You decide, I'll call you back for next Saturday night. That's what Miami of Ohio is, the hand job. Okay? We've got Ohio versus Miami of Ohio. And, of course, Miami of Ohio came through for us last week against Bowling Green.
They did.
So I'm going, give me that rub, baby. Give me that hand job.
So everybody's taking Miami of Ohio except Doug, who's going with Ohio. Ohio has one more win, but Miami has played the tougher schedule. They've played the big boys out of conference, where Ohio has not.
Well, Doug doesn't want a hand job, so there
You go. Yeah, here we go.
Kind of shocked at the almost overwhelming support here because this was the one team that beat Texas. The SEC Championship, number 5, Georgia, against number 2, Texas.
Another
in Atlanta.
Yeah, another frickin' SEC rematch bullshit. I hate this crap.
Yeah, not only am I picking Texas, I'm rooting for them. Just because this will be, again, another nail in the coffin where people will say, 2 3-loss SEC teams make it in. How the hell can you justify this? First year of the CFP with 12
and you
teams.
Fuck it up
and you
already.
fucked it up twice with Alabama and Georgia. Tell me how it's not biased.
Exactly. Go Texas.
Go Sark. Go Sark.
As we discussed, it's tough to beat a team twice in a season.
Plus, Texas's defense has been playing a lot better as of late.
Yes, they've
holding
improved.
Texas A&M last week to 7 points at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Georgia's got their flaws. Carson Beck likes to turn the ball over. Even though this is technically a home game for Georgia, I will still take Texas. Yeah.
They got to find a better neutral site for that crap.
Yeah, everybody's on board with us except for Aaron taking the Bulldogs.
Marshall. At Louisiana Lafayette, the Ragin' Cajun.
Yep. And so technically now they've kind of shortened their name. I think they sometimes go by just Louisiana, but I will always refer to them as Louisiana Lafayette, and some other people do as well. So you and I and Sam and Bill taking the Ragin' Cajuns.
Yep.
But Nick, Doug, and Aaron are taking
Marshall. That could be interesting. I just like the Ragin' Cajuns.
Plus, that is arguably the biggest point spread of all these games, is increased to 5.5 in favor of the Ragin' Cajuns.
Here we go.
Now, is this one wishful thinking, or is this us legitimately picking who we think's going to win?
I think this is us legitimately picking who's going to win.
The Big Ten Championship, number 3 Penn State against number 1 Oregon.
Oregon across the board. They are dominant, and we've all know James Franklin cannot win the big game.
I think that's the big factor.
He does not know how to win a big game.
Now, luckily here he gets a neutral site game.
It still doesn't help him.
And then finally, the ACC Championship. And yes, it involves SMU. First year in the league.
How far they've come since the death penalty.
Number 8 SMU against number 18 Clemson. Clemson for Nick and Aaron. Everybody else taking SMU. Clemson has not shown to me this year that they can beat good teams.
No. And SMU is a good team. In their first year in the conference, dominating.
And just because it's their first year in the ACC, don't forget that in the previous few years, they were dominating the AAC.
Yes.
So it's not like we're talking about an expansion team in the NFL. No. SMU is a damn good football team.
They are a legitimate football program.
Yep. So there you go, kids. There are our picks for championship weekend. All 8 of our panelists' picks will be posted on our Facebook page Thursday night. Let's move on to racing. Just a couple little things in racing. Usually, racing would take up a lot more, but this is downtime.
Yeah. We don't really start discussing that until we get closer to February as we near the Daytona 500.
Yep, F1 is wrapping up. I believe this is the second to last race we just had. Max Verstappen already has locked up the championship. He wins the Qatar Grand Prix. Pence, now, I have looked for verification on this. This seems odd to me because just a few months ago we discussed the Long Beach Grand Prix.
Right.
And how one of the co-owners, Jerry Forsyth, was buying out his partner's half and said, I will never sell, I will never sell, I will never sell.
Oh, guess what? He decided to sell.
Yeah, to Roger Penske.
Yep.
Penske Entertainment, from what I can tell, has purchased the Long Beach Grand Prix. So now that opens up the possibility of NASCAR potentially in the future coming to Long Beach.
One never knows.
And then this one's just for me. Well, it's for Dave too. Tony Breidinger, Tony with an I,
Yep.
from the ARCA series. Very, very successful, by the way, in the ARCA series.
Yes, she has done very well.
Dabbled in the truck series. Will become the first NASCAR driver ever to appear in
the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue.
That will be out in 2025. Yes, yes. We are sexist pigs because
She's pretty.
Danica never made it, huh?
She never did.
Probably not top heavy enough to.
I don't know that she was invited or if she would have accepted.
I can tell you, Tony Breidinger looks like she can fill out a fire suit, so I don't think a bikini will be a problem.
There you go.
Where's my girl though? Come on,
Haley?
yes, she couldn't be the first. She couldn't be the first.
Well, there you go.
Breaks my freaking heart. Real quick basketball news. My Magic are 15-8 playing the 76ers tonight. And of course the 76ers conveniently, thank you very much basketball gods, decide to bench Joel Embiid and Paul George. So the Magic should have a cakewalk tonight. But last night they lost to the Knicks in the finals of the first round of the NBA Cup. But
To the NBA Cup.
But they got the wild card slot. So the final 8 teams in the NBA Cup for this year. Thank God the Lakers didn't make it. Thank God. So we have the Knicks, the Bucks, the Hawks, the Magic, the Rockets, the Thunder, the Golden State Warriors, and the Dallas Mavericks. The NBA Cup next round will take place December 10th and the 11th. Semifinals the 14th, the finals the 17th. And one proud franchise will hang a banner that means
absolutely nothing
in their rafters.
Toilet paper has more value than that banner.
And the Washington Wizards. Oh boy. The Washington Wizards. Going back to last season, the Washington Wizards have had 2 winless months in 2024. 2 winless months.
Ouch.
In the entire history of the NBA, that's only happened 16 times.
How many times from the Washington team?
All I know is that twice this year for the Wizards.
Ouch.
That is one
Ouch.
terrible franchise. Terrible, terrible, terrible.
Terrible.
As one Chuck Barkley would say, and we'll talk more about him later. In college hoops, UConn on the men's side plummets to number 25 after 3 losses to 3 unranked teams.
In, what was it, the Maui Invitational?
Yep.
That they were supposed to win going away?
Yep.
Karma, bitch, be thy name.
Kansas still number 1 on the men's side. UCLA is still number one on the women's side. Notre Dame, unfortunately, with a bad week, losing 2 games, drops to number 10, and they are now 5-2. But of course, the women are always better than the men. Notre Dame men started off 4-0. They are now 4-5. And Miami, no better. The Miami Hurricanes are 3-5. So
yeah, there you go.
the Fighting Irish and the Hurricanes are the bottom feeders right now in the ACC in basketball. In hockey, do you want to talk about your Blackhawks?
Sitting at 8-15-2 on 18 points and still dead fucking last.
Yeah.
They have really got to consider a head coaching change. Nothing is changing with this group. These guys, together now the second year, should be showing improvement, and there's nothing there. Other teams have already made the change.
The Bruins. Bruins fired their head coach, and he got hired by somebody else who had fired their head coach.
So Luke Richardson needs to be on the hot seat.
Second year?
Second or third.
Okay. You know more than I do about this.
So, but whatever, it doesn't seem to be clicking. I know it's a rebuild, but we should be seeing some improvement, and we're not.
He hasn't really Eberflused himself yet, though, has he?
No, not yet. We're waiting on that one.
All right, I have 2 badasses of the week before we get to baseball, and our second big dumbass discussion topic. But let's do some positivity first.
Sure, we need that in our lives.
Now, you guys know I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan.
You don't say.
So first up, I would like to celebrate our mascot, Sebastian the Ibis. Because despite the fact that the Hurricanes were embarrassing themselves up in Syracuse, choking away a 21-point lead and losing eventually to the Orangemen, Sebastian the Ibis, or the dude in the outfit, found time to hit on a local reporter and ask her for her phone number during the game. That's the Miami spirit right there.
There you
That's
go.
why I'm proud to root for the Hurricanes. Sebastian is the greatest mascot in all of college sports. And thank you, my second badass, collectively, thank you to the Colorado State women's volleyball team for ending our long national fucking nightmare and beating San Jose State to win the Mountain West in volleyball and end this bullshit
transgender player saga that's been going on all fucking season.
Yeah, with teams forfeiting. Even in this tournament, we had a team forfeit. I believe it was Boise State. Now it's over. It's done. Let's move on. Please. Oh, and by the way, the LPGA and the USGA officially starting January 1st, 2025 have barred, quote, players assigned male at birth, unquote.
Yep. Beautifully done.
Or, now there's a
loophole.
Yeah, transitioned before
puberty.
Male puberty, yes. But still.
It's
Jesus, God, can we just stop with this?
End the fad. It's over.
It's ridiculous. You've got better things to do with your life than waking up when you're 5 years old and going, I don't think I want a penis anymore. Go to school, learn some shit, figure out how to make the world a better place.
Just stop the stupidity and the insanity of it all.
Oh, speaking of which, we're moving on to baseball.
Isn't it amazing? Are we talking about the deferred money now?
That's part of it. That's part of it.
That,
As we
the
talk.
Dodgers now have eclipsed $1 billion in deferred money.
Yes, of course. Last week we talked about Blake Snell getting his deal with the Dodgers. Then they extend their super utility man, Tommy Edman, 5 years, $74 million. But of course, a third of that
deferred.
And as Dave said, that puts the Dodgers over $1 billion in deferred payments from 2028 through 2046.
Come on! This is...
And that's not even the worst part of baseball this week, which we'll get to in a minute. A couple of other signings. The Red Sox signed Aroldis Chapman.
Is his arm still attached?
He's getting $10.75 million for 1 year. And last year he was still throwing, I believe, right around 100 miles an hour. So,
good luck.
Mets signed Frankie Montas, 2 years, $34 million for a mid-level starting pitcher.
Ridiculous. Overpayment.
And then, of course, the Cubs bolster their rotation with Matthew Boyd, who pitched very well for the Guardians down the stretch and in the playoffs.
Yep.
So this is basically the guy I look at as taking Kyle Hendricks' place. 2 years, $29 million for him. And again, the rumors are hot and heavy that they are looking to dump Cody Bellinger as quickly as possible so they can go after Corbin Burns and or Anthony Santander.
There you
now,
go.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
The dumping Bellinger part, I believe.
That I believe. The Cubs spending money to get high-tier talent, yeah, don't believe it.
No. And then, of course,
it's all lip service.
We're supposed to get... No, we're done with the... Well, that was hand jobs, not blow jobs. Sorry. Then, of course, we are supposedly hours away from a Juan Soto decision.
Ooh.
And, of course, the only 5 teams involved are the 5 teams you would expect. Red Sox, Mets, Yankees,
Dodgers.
Blue Jays, and Dodgers. If the Dodgers sign him,
then we need...
I'm done. I am done with baseball.
Baseball is dead. Baseball is dead.
If you're going to let the Dodgers figure out a way to sign Juan Soto, and then what, are you going to defer another $500 million?
Projected $700.
Right, but how much of that will be deferred?
Probably $6.
They'll go over $1.5 billion in deferred money. And
that
Rob Manfred goes, do-de-do-de-do-de-do.
If they invest, they're
these
going to be
idiots
fine.
like Mad Dog Chris Russo out there in the media who love him. I need an explanation, Mad Dog, of what the hell Rob Manfred has done that's so great.
That makes baseball good.
Because they're letting the Dodgers defer all this money. Oh, well, it still counts against the luxury tax. I'll believe it when I see the books.
Yeah, no shit.
Maybe the A's stadium might finally be moving forward. We still don't know what's going on with the Rays.
Nope.
We've got another week and a half before that comes down to the wire, and they have to make a final decision. And now we've got our next candidate for the Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week in sports. The proposed golden at-bat rule. Dave's looking at me like he's one of the few people in the world that has not heard of it.
I have not had much time this week to delve into.
It only popped up about a day and a half ago, but everybody has jumped on this and has been discussing it. Because Rob Manfred acts like this legitimately
golden bat rule.
Golden at bat rule.
Golden at bat. What the fuck is that?
The golden at bat rule would allow a team to basically, when they're in a position, if they're behind in a game, and they're at the bottom of the order. They're like 7, 8, 9 in that area, to take any other player and let them bat in place of a lesser hitter.
No, that's bullshit.
So basically, you could let Shohei Ohtani bat in the ninth if you get 2 men out if you're the Dodgers, 2 men on, you're down by a run, and you're at like your 9th place hitter, you can say, no, we want Ohtani to bat. That's our golden at bat for the game.
That's bullshit. That is the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard of.
People are actually liking this.
Oh, come on!
I'm not kidding you. Now, they're qualifying it by saying, probably wouldn't vote for it if I was in that position because it's fundamentally changing the game.
It's a stupid damn idea.
It shows that baseball is willing to change.
No, it's stupid. It is damn stupid.
Roger Clemens had to be the voice of reason about this and come out and say, do you idiots not realize that would mean that, let's say, a top-level reliever in the 9th inning is facing Aaron Judge and blows him away, strikes him out, strike one, throws 300-mile-an-hour fastballs right by him. And then he could conceivably have to face him again?
Oh, no. Seriously?
Yes, that's what the golden at bat would be.
Oh, fuck that. I thought it was just swapping him out and then the other guy would have to go in his place.
No.
You do not know. Fuck that shit. Hell no.
Yeah. You could conceivably have to face
the
same batter twice in a row.
No.
But they're in the discussion.
No.
They still haven't fleshed it out
It's
yet.
dumb. It should be shot dead. Burned.
But
Doused in gasoline.
When Roger Clemens is your voice of reason.
My God. That
is
so stupid.
Yeah. Well, think about all the different flaws with this. What happens if, again, we'll stick with the Yankees. What if Aaron Judge doubled to lead off the 9th inning? You're down a couple runs. Aaron Judge doubles, and then the next guy up walks. So you got first and second, and then you want to bring Judge up again as your golden at bat. What happens? He's on second base. So how can you do that?
You can't.
Do you get to put somebody else?
Do you do a double switch?
This is what you shouldn't even talk about
this is the
because there's so many flaws.
Idea.
So many flaws in this idea.
It is so stupid. This, oh my God.
This is the problem. You open this door.
This is worse than any Sandlot scenario you could come up with.
This is what happened when you open Pandora's box and you let Rob Manfred run wild.
Yeah. I know what they're going to do.
The pitch clock worked.
I know what
so
they're going to do.
now he's going to get to do whatever the hell he wants.
I know what they're going to do in that situation. Ghost runner.
Don't be surprised. And
dumb.
Again, I'm hearing idiots like Michael Kay, the voice of the Yankees, talking about how, well, at least it's showing that he's willing to look into change.
No, you don't need to fucking
here's the
change.
Thing. Here's the
you
thing.
You want change? How about you put in a hard cap and a hard floor?
Thank you, because
that's what you do to change baseball, to make it more competitive.
That's what I wanted to yell at Michael Kay, because I hear Michael Kay talking about, well, at least this shows that Rob Manfred is willing to do something to fix the game. And then his qualification of that was, you and I are old school baseball fans. He says, they've already got you. They're trying to get the younger players, the younger fans. And I'm like, how about you realize you could lose your older fans?
You're going to lose the only people who are watching.
That is such an idiotic statement to say that, oh, you're going to stick around for baseball no matter what.
I won't.
No.
Guess what? I'm on the verge of bailing.
That's just the moronic logic behind that.
Oh, wait.
You're old. You're going to watch baseball no matter what. No, I got better things to do.
You know what?
I got a lot of other things I can do.
Do you know the grand total of innings of baseball I watched this year? 6. 6 innings of baseball from a diehard baseball fan. I don't care.
And I was with you. After he said that, I was saying the exact same thing you just said. I said, no, you want to fix the game, hard floor, hard cap. You make the smaller teams spend more, and you stop the Dodgers with this deferred money bullshit, and you tell the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets that they don't run baseball, and they cap it at $230 million, and that's it. Hard cap. You're done. You're over. That's it. That's all you can spend. But you make the Guardians, you make the Orioles, you make the Pirates and the Reds spend $150 million.
Bingo.
And if you don't want to be in the league, get out. I'm sure we can find a bunch of pampered multi-billionaires who would love to start up a team like in Utah, in Portland, Oregon. You should be required to spend a minimum of $150 and a maximum of $250 million. Arbitrarily, those numbers. If football,
I would go a $75 million gap. No
so
more.
you'd go 225, 150 maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's still more lenient than the other sports. The NFL, most teams push the cap every year. And that's why the NFL is king. Because all the teams are competitive
and you
to
have
some
to cut
extent.
And re-sign. And it's fun.
And the way things have gone.
Oh, and guess what? Contracts aren't fully guaranteed.
And even despite the fact they are creeping closer and closer to that, you're still able to ditch a mistake. And it hurts. And it should hurt, because if you made the mistake of signing somebody,
it should still count against you.
We talked about Kirk Cousins earlier. The Falcons, it'll hurt next year if they cut him. But it won't hurt for 4 years, the term of the contract.
Yep.
Why do we have to run fucking everything, Dave?
Because we're too damn good. And people are so stupid.
All right, let's move on to moments of silence.
Well, let me qualify that. People in power are so stupid.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we always say. Doesn't matter if it's politics, business, sports. They gotta kiss so much ass, suck so much dick to get to the top, sell their souls, that by the time they get there, they're just gonna do whatever the people who
put them in.
Yeah.
Tell
who
them.
Did all the favors for them. Whatever they say goes.
Ugh.
All right. Now we move on to moments of silence. Legendary basketball coach for St. John's, Lou Carnesecca, passed away.
Thoughts and prayers to the family and friends.
I believe he got to the Final Four 1 year. But back then in the 80s, the heyday of college basketball, St. John's was always good. Now, unfortunately, they're fucking led by Rick Pitino.
Ugh.
Let me bend the waitress over the table, Pitino. Knock her up and try to pay her off.
Yeah, the devil himself.
Yeah. So thoughts and prayers to everybody at St. John's and the Carnesecca family. And then another reason why we hate soccer. We hate soccer on so many levels. It's ridiculous. It's a boring-ass game. The players get paid too much to do nothing. I don't care about Ronaldo or Messi or any of them.
And
but now,
fans are psychotic idiots.
In Guinea, this past week, 56 people killed in a soccer stampede in Guinea over a red card that was given out in a soccer game.
Soccer hooligans are the worst, including kids.
56 people died.
For nothing.
Last time I checked, that doesn't happen with baseball or basketball here in the U.S. or the NFL. 56 people died.
Over stupidity.
and the NFL and baseball and now NASCAR want to go to different countries. Why do you want to go over to this kind of bullshit? Why? Why do you want to subject your sport to this kind of bullshit? All right, Dave, what do we do now at the end of the show?
Time to pivot to find out which of our dumbasses already mentioned and those to come who will be this week's Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week.
I showed restraint this week. Now, we've already talked about the golden at bat rule, and we've already talked about Azeez Al-Shaair and his bullshit excuses and deflecting, and then everybody else involved, including his general manager and people in the media. The other two I've got for you, so we got 4 to choose from. I mentioned earlier we're going to bring up Charles Barkley.
Terrible.
Terrible, 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 terrible. Well, you know what will be terrible, terrible, terrible? A Mark Cuban Charles Barkley presidential ticket in 2028.
Oh, God, I think I just threw up in my mouth.
And these two idiots on TV actually were talking about it this past week and saying we would, quote, definitely win, unquote. And if that would happen, I might have to call up Ellen DeGeneres and ask for what plane and what airline she used when she moved out of the country here recently.
Oh, Canada.
No, I ain't going to Canada. No. I can't go to Australia because of all the poisonous snakes.
They have the top 10 deadliest of everything.
I know this, Dave, but you don't need to remind me. Probably have to go to Norway.
Denmark.
Yeah, somewhere cold. But you've got a lot of buxom blondes. Viking chicks. Hilga. Come let me nestle my head in your bosom, Hilga. And then finally, this one's a tough one because Alabama A&M needed to not listen to a random family member. I know this is a very tragic story about Medrick Burnett Jr. Now, of course, this would also serve as a moment of silence. Linebacker Medrick Burnett Jr. at Alabama A&M died here within the last week. Why is this in the dumbass segment? Because Alabama A&M, based on something that a random family member told them, they came out in public and said that Medrick Burnett Jr. was dead from an October head injury. Problem was, he was not clinically dead yet. The doctors had not declared him dead.
They probably took him off life support, and family said, we're taking him off life support, which let them run with he's dead, but he was not dead at that time.
So they had to retract it, and basically, I think 18 hours later, then he unfortunately did pass away. So thoughts and prayers to the family and friends of Medrick Burnett Jr., but Alabama A&M, do your research. Talk to the doctors.
There is my dumbass of the week. That is egregious and horrendous.
Talk to the doctors before you declare in public that a player who suffered an injury on the football field is dead.
Yeah.
Let the doctors make that call.
Yeah, Alabama A&M. Absolutely.
Not a fourth cousin or whoever it was. So your nominees, of course, Dave's already declared. Alabama A&M, Azeez Al-Shaair, the 2028 presidential ticket of Mark Cuban and Charles Barkley, or Rob Manfred and the golden at bat rule. That's mine. That's mine.
It was so close.
That's mine.
That's got to be a fucking joke.
That's mine.
It's got to be a fucking
joke.
joke.
Again, why we're making this rule change so we can discuss some of these in more detail. the things we just discussed a few minutes ago about this, and all the people getting behind this don't understand the game of baseball.
No, they don't.
They're trying to fund, and I'm telling you, the one rule change that I still am not down with is the ghost runner on second base.
Oh, starting in extra innings.
We can't play 18-inning games. It's not right. The players and the fans. Tough shit! Tough shit! You make people sit around for a 0-0 soccer game. You can't hang around for more bonus baseball at no extra charge?
Come on. As much as we pay,
come
on.
To me, that was the one that went too far. And that's why
don't like that
I
one.
don't trust Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball anymore.
Nope. I like the pitch clock. I like the limit on the number of throws over to first base. I like making the relievers pitch to more than one batter. I hate the runner at second in extra innings.
Yep.
And this golden bat should not even get out of the batter's box.
You have clocks in football. You have a play clock. You have a shot clock. In basketball, I have no problem putting a pitch clock on the pitchers. That doesn't fundamentally change the game.
No, it doesn't.
But when you decide, if we're going to extra innings, now we automatically put a guy on second base.
No.
That's ridiculous.
That's dumb.
That's ridiculous. And I know hockey's got the shootout. So, again, we have to run everything. And we also have to run the entertainment world, because check out the weekend edition.
That's right.
This Saturday morning.
Your hangover cure.
December the 7th, featuring Jackal. Our review of their concert on Black Friday from the 8 Second Saloon.
Movie review, The Mousetrap.
I'll have a bonus movie review as well, as I tried to catch up with Hulu before I canceled it and then signed up for it again. And then, of course, we've got our shows that we review every week. Tracker, What We Do in the Shadows, Yellowstone, all that good stuff. We will have dumbasses, of course, as we always do. So,
tune in for your politically incorrect pop culture extravaganza.
Yep. Moments of silence, hangover stuff, just everything and anything we can throw your way to get you out of the doldrums and out of that headache and that nausea on Saturday morning. We will do it for you. But until then, he's your Uncle Dave.
He's your Uncle Kev.
Say goodnight to the kids, Dave.
Good night to the kids, Dave.